Sydney. It is really nice to be back here again. Thank you for bringing me out one more time. I'd like to start by congratulating the students who put on this event. I know the logistical nightmare that goes into something like that. And I also wanted to congratulate Students for Justice in Palestine at the University of Technology, Sydney. I heard you guys put on an awesome Israeli Apartheid Week last week, so congratulations. Let's hope we can build on that. Bravo. Now, ever since the boycott, divestments and sanctions campaign picked up steam around the world, as well as here in Australia, the other side, and even here in Sydney, has been very busy trying to promote joint Palestinian-Israeli peace initiatives, thinking that it's some kind of a kryptonite that will curb people's enthusiasm for the boycott campaign. Now, I want to talk about why it is that the boycott campaign has such strong feelings against such initiatives, many of which are more to do with normalization and have a lot less to do with actual peace. So I want to start by actually talking about normalization, and I found that the best definition for the word normalization was one on the Palestinian Campaign for Cultural and Academic Boycotts website, and I will quote, "Normalization is the colonization of the mind." Normalization is the colonization of the mind, whereby the oppressed subject comes to believe that the oppressor's reality is the only normal reality that must be subscribed to, and that the oppression is a fact of life that has to be coped with. End of quote. So what this translates to is this. A typical normalization project will bring Palestinians and Israelis together to talk to one another, to reduce the hate that drives the conflict, but without taking any action of any sort to change the environment that actually created the animosity. It's as if Palestinian resistance is driven by emotions of hate, not Israeli acts of oppression. It's as if it is driven by this irrational anger and not in response to dispossession, by some kind of a senseless loathing and not really attempts to try to survive in the face of real daily acts of ethnic cleansing. An important feature of normalization projects is to provide the illusion of symmetry, presenting Palestinians and Israelis as two equal sides, sharing equal responsibility for the conflict, ignoring the context of occupation and discrimination. We hear things like, they are just people who have been locked into this time-old struggle. If only both sides could stop the violence. If only both sides could listen to each other. And my favorite one is, if only both sides could listen to one another's narratives. And a lot of these projects focus on the idea of narrative swapping, but without really taking any action to go beyond this idea of narrative. Now, subscribing to the idea that both sides just happen to have two different narratives really requires that the Palestinians erase their collective memory and close to their eyes to their present reality. It requires that we forget numbers, forget UN documents, forget human rights reports, forget sites of destroyed villages, camps filled with the internally displaced, and camps filled with refugees from 1948. It actually requires that we forget all concrete evidence, because apparently it all goes down to narrative. Now, I guess they hoped that it would take a few sessions of narrative swapping to finally make us see the necessity of firing a gas canister into the face of an unarmed protester. Or that it would take maybe a few football games, and I know you guys have had a few here last year with the Perez peace team, to finally make us appreciate, while watching these housebroken Palestinian players paraded in the field, why one-ton bombs had to be dropped on refugees in Gaza. And maybe if we were to spend the summer camp together getting to know one another over a nice campfire, maybe we'll finally see the light and apologize for not quietly moving out of their way when they took our homes and tore down our villages. Now, advocates for normalization would actually have us believe that this is the greatest test to tell the difference between a moderate and a terrorist. A moderate is someone who engages with these projects, somebody who is willing to cooperate, reconcile, and coexist, but without ever actually challenging the oppression. A moderate is somebody who acquires the skill to learn to cope with the oppression. Anyone who stands up to the oppression, who refuses to normalize, is not interested in peace, is a radical, is a terrorist. And for as long as they wave these labels around, they're actually hoping that they can intimidate people into acquiescence. The message that is conveyed in these projects is really quite simple. They tell the Palestinians this: we, the Israelis, have had to do what we need to do because you make us do it. And the only way we might slow down, not entirely stop, but slow down doing it, is if you make us feel that you like us. If you can make us feel secure enough. Now, if you're going to be a good Palestinian and join in these initiatives and stop this resistance nonsense, then maybe then we will take you into the big house of moderates, where we may not let you eat with us in the dining room, but at least we'll take you in from the cold and let you sit on the kitchen floor where it is nice and safe and warm. And while they talk of some looming existential threat, we are supposed to forget that it is Palestine that was wiped off the map, and that it is the Palestinians who are fighting for the right to simply exist on their land. So this is how they try to colonize our minds and force us to accept the inequality, exchanging our freedom for breadcrumbs, our quest for equality for some illusion of symmetry, reducing our existence to coping with this deformed reality. And while they live in their high towers out there in narrative land, do they not see us marching through our fields where the olive trees that were planted by our ancestors have been ripped from the earth with their hands? Their severed roots reaching out like amputated limbs, life seeping through their tips, reeking of broken hopes and dreams. If they could just stop the rattling of their bulldozers for just 1 minute, they might actually finally hear that heartbreaking sound that the earth makes when it weeps beneath their feet. If they could just hold their fire, turn off their tank engines and lower their guns, they may actually hear our voices, because we are here and we are chanting loud and clear. We have said to them, you want to get to know us? You really want to come and get to know us? Then come and march with us against the wall. Come and visit and stand with us against the bulldozers. Come and visit us in our prisons. Shelter us from the stones your Jewish settlers are throwing at our children. We have said it loud and clear, we will not coexist with you in your world of inequality. If you want to coexist with us, then you're going to have to come and join us in our struggle for freedom, because right now, this is the only place where we exist. And no Hasbara video that they will ever create, by the way, about their supposedly gay-loving and democratic state will alter the reality that every Palestinian family has experienced. Arbitrary detention, torture in their prisons, and house evictions and demolitions. And no sleek brand Israel campaign will ever explain why a woman in Jerusalem has fallen to her knees, broken on the sidewalk, with bits and pieces of her life scattered on the pavement as Jewish settlers look through the windows of what was once her home. There is nothing normal about this. There is nothing normal about any of it. There is nothing normal about sentencing 9-year-olds in military courts. There is nothing normal about forcing pregnant women to have babies at checkpoints. There is nothing normal about the imprisonment of 1.5 million people in Gaza, then bombing them at will, knowing they have nowhere to run and nowhere to hide. There is nothing normal about nailing shut the front doors of houses in Hebron, forcing entire families to jump from rooftop to go to their school and their work. There is nothing normal about stealing our water than forcing us to buy it back in drops. There is nothing normal about making Palestinians pay for the price of gasoline that the Israeli bulldozers use when they demolish their house. But above all of this, there is nothing normal about their expectation that with enough brutality, we will give up. So I have a suggestion for them. How about they normalize this? We will continue to resist. Their checkpoints have made us cherish our freedom. Their bombs have made us resilient to fear. Their bullets have made us embrace nonviolence. Their hypocrisy has made us love the truth, and their tyranny has made us stronger. And their apartheid wall has made us stand so tall we can see the whole world. And the whole world can see us while they hide behind their piles of concrete and lies. So let the walls they have built confine them. And let the word apartheid define them. And if they ask you where you stand on these normalization projects, then please join us and stand with us and say that you stand with those who have stood their ground, shouting into the barrels of their guns. You may have occupied our villages and towns, but you will never colonize our minds. They will never colonize our minds. Thank you.